And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Pardon the transparency of my attire. I had to attend an important social club meeting. Anyway, if you're looking for the freshest imagery of the sun, you've got it. As always, here at the Daily Space Weather Show. Coming at you from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Most exciting portion of the closest star is this area down here where we have two sets of sunspots forming like mirror images of each other as a new sunspot rises up here in the northeast. Let's take a look at some more fresh views. These are 24-hour videos from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Here we've added 193 angstroms and zoomed in on the northern hemisphere. You might see huge plasma filaments. One has indeed erupted out of the northwest, which would be your upper right from this perspective. Right in that area right there, there was a very slow-moving coronal mass ejection. It is not earthly directed. Here's that new sunspot that rose in the northeast. And here's our house favorite wavelength, 171 angstroms. And before we show additional features, let's take a brief look at sunspots. There is November 3rd and November 4th to date. We'll also show colorized magnetogram. Before we move on to things like endorsements, and the following are paid endorsements. Welcome to SmashoMash.com. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Congratulations on Realize the channel exists. Please visit us on social media. You'll find us all over the internet at SmashoMash. SmashoMash.com is the home page. So join us over there, here and there and everywhere. Today's featured product is Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera, our best seller at our merch shop. You can find links below the video to the merch shop. And look at the massive savings, 20%, 30%, I think even up to 60% off of some items over there. And please, folks, if you're going through hell, keep going. Don't pole vault the caldera. If you're going on a volcanic vacation, leave your vault pole at home. Again, help out the channel. Savings up to 40% site-wide. Again, that is our top seller. The Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera public service message. You can't believe you need one, but that is a series of words of wisdom from SmashoMash.com. Today's featured product from the Amazon shop is bulk onion powder. Why? It'll be featured tonight on Instagram. Yes, on Instagram. If you don't follow us over there, check us out over there. You'll also find us on Twitter. If you take a look, Amazon.com/shop/SmashoMash is where to buy a bunch of spices in bulk. Again, bulk onion powder will be appearing on tonight's recipe on Instagram. Amazon.com/shop/SmashoMash. Save a bundle by buying your spices in bulk. Have them delivered to your door conveniently instead of paying 30 times the price in the grocery store. So again, Instagram, there you go. Some Instagram posts for you. Curry chicken coming tonight. You can also support the channel via Hemp Lucid. So if you haven't checked out the Hemp Lucid shop, just enter the promo code SmashoMash10 on checkout. You can also shop via our storefront link that you'll find below this video. Get your CBDs for pets, your body balms, your THC-free products, your Delta 8s. What about your tinctures? Sleep, stress, and immune stacks. Focus, mushroom, and sleep gummies, also stress gummies. HempLucid.com. Enter the promo code SmashoMash10 to save 10% on your checkout. Also, if you want to ask a particle physicist a question, the deadline is Thursday morning when I wake up, whatever time that might be. When I wake up, I send the question. If you want to send a question, go to smashomash.com/forum. Log in and you can post a question there. We might take a question from someplace like Twitter or Instagram or YouTube comments, but we're much more likely to take one that's actually been posted in the proper place. Smashomash.com. You can also find links there to the Smash Team, the official subscription services site of the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name and News. You want email alerts, you want additional content, become a member of the Smash Team. Thanks especially to Gold and Silver Smash Team level. They are co-sponsors of these videos. Continue these videos' existence, their public viewability, and free viewership by becoming a member of the Smash Team. And additional content might be delivered as well. Again, don't forget to enter the promo code SMASHOMASH10 to save 10% on your Hemp Lucid purchase. Yes. Hemp Lucid. Smashomash.com/Smash Team. Amazon.com/shop/Smashomash. And again, the Redbubble shop. Don't forget the merch shop, folks. Linkable there. And don't forget to press subscribe over at Eugene's channel. Yes, Eugene, our particle physicist. So, you want to ask him a question? Smashomash.com/forum and the General Science Forum. And again, make sure you check out Eugene's channel. If you haven't watched every single one of his videos in succession, you must binge watch Eugene's channel today, or else there will be repercussions, possibly even for your soul. Or something. Anyway, moving right along to volcanoes. What's going on in Iceland? Well, no eruptions. Other volcanoes, lots of eruptions, like Shivaluch. Although volcanic ash not visible in satellite imagery, Ibu's exploding 7,000-foot ash plume, Luitolo 6,000-foot ash plume, Merapi, another pyroclastic flow, Phoenix clouds block an ash production. It's Merapi. Yeah, look out for Merapi. Don't get caught in a pyroclastic flow. It can make for a bad hair day. Semeru, also exploding, 14,000-foot ash plume. Merapi. I think I already mentioned Merapi. Here's Merapi again, producing like a 10,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. And a 68-second seismic signal. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 210. It's a 21,000-foot ash plume, 14,000-foot ash plume over Guatemala from Sancho Guito, 15,000-foot ash plume over Guatemala from Fuego, as Fuego also explodes. Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia producing a 20,000-foot ash plume. Flight level 200. Flight level 200 over Sangay in Ecuador. Occasional emissions from Mervenador. Sabancaya, 27,000-foot ash plume over Peru. As it explodes, it's a flight level 270. Please do not pole vault the caldera. And here come the seismic updates for you. The world's most seismically active location has been the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Shaking the very earth. Just kidding, folks. The most active place has been the Philippines. And you'll see lots and lots of aftershocks there. Hopefully those haven't been foreshocks. But multiple events there. 5.5, 5.1, 5.2, 5.4, 5.1, 5.4, 5.7, 5.4, 5.0. Finally a 5.1 in western Turkey to break the Philippine earthquake trend. Pakistan had a 5.2. Some small quakes on the U.S. western coast. And that's it, mostly the Philippines. And headed back to space, here is the SDO 193 angstroms wavelength. Great at showing coronal holes. Also great at showing the extended corona, filaments, and active regions. And let's get into some stats. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux now at 138 solar flux units. If you're wondering what a solar flux unit is, it's 10,000 Jansky of radial flux density. Janskys are just a measurement of electromagnetic radiation moving through space. 10.7 is crucial in sunspot and solar cycle progression because it is directly proportional to sunspot number, as you can see there. The red line is the sunspot number. The black line is the radio flux for the past year. 138 is the current radio flux number. There's a space weather enthusiast dashboard expecting some geomagnetic storm conditions tonight from a CME that was moving a little bit more slowly than we initially forecast. And guess what? It's showing up now. And it's very weak. It's barely a glancing blow. We'll get to it here in a moment. First Earth magnetic moment from space for the past 4 hours. Let me bring that back. There we go. There are the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. So these variations are caused by variations in the solar wind. It could be the magnetic field, the particle density, the particle speed. Could be the magnetic field orientation or the strength. So a lot of factors are used to calculate the space weather modeling framework. Also, ground-based magnetometers figure in, the electron flux, the GOES magnetometers, as well as magnetometers out at Lagrangian point 1. So here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground for the past 4 hours. Again, space weather modeling framework. This depicts magnetic flux density. And we may see some aurora happening here. You never know when the magnetic field is going to suddenly fluctuate. Again, there is some CME activity looking like it has been recently arriving in the past hour or two. We'll get to it. There are the KP index. Data for the past 3 days. Current conditions are KP2. It's a KP2 geomagnetically calm situation. At the Smash News Earth Weather Station. The Earth and space weather together. Next, solar wind stuff. And that's what's going on at ACE. You see these recent variations. There is a second solar wind regime there. So that you can see the plasma temperature here jumping all over the place. So that looks like a CME impact happening right in the past since about 2000 hours. So the past about 3 hours there, seeing a little bit of a CME impact. Here's Discover's data, and it's a little bit more obvious on there. You can see little hints of a different solar wind regime there. Keep in mind this is a coronal hole high-speed stream going on at the same time. But this looks like the most significant CME impact so far. Again, this one was moving a little bit more slowly than expected. And there you can see that CME happening. Represented at Lagrangian point 1, about 1 million miles from Earth outside the magnetosphere, where this stuff can actually be measured. Current conditions are very low solar wind density at less than 1 proton per cubic centimeter, elevated solar wind speed here. Looking like a coronal hole high-speed stream remains at 554 kilometers per second. There are our GOES magnetometers. No indication of significant geomagnetic storm activity on those. The GOES 16 and the GOES 18, which brings us to our top view ecliptic plane field plot. You got to love that because Earth is just about to snap into a North Pole-oriented sector. So we thought that would be arriving a little bit earlier here. But not yet. Stereo A has moved into a North Pole sector, but Earth, not quite. So there's the last image. Still a few hours away, it looks like, perhaps. I believe the North Pole sector is inevitable in the next few hours. Here's our line of sight field plot, shown daily on the daily space weather. Here's our line of sight ecliptic plane field plot, one of our newest features on the channel. And here is our line of sight coronal hole plot. This one's been there a long, long time. As we've been doing this, well over 6 years. Pushing 7 years at this point. And let's move to coronal holes from SDO. How about the 211 angstroms wavelength? That is quite good indeed at viewing coronal holes. And here's a little closer view of that one that's currently causing some elevated solar wind. Showed up a little earlier than most expected. And let's get to sunspots. So there's your sunspot number. Sunspot number here right on the average. So about, let's see, 112 sunspots is the current number. And we are expecting a little uptick in the sunspot number in the next 24 hours. So expect a modest uptick in sunspots for tomorrow. Here's our flare probability and scoreboard. And we still do have a high likelihood of a large flare, especially in the southwest. Some possibility for some flare activity right in the center of the solar disk as well. Right down here, these groups are magnetically complex. Don't forget to keep an eye on this group down here. 3500 has been the most active sunspot in the last several months, actually. Anyway, here come sunspots from SDO. Mostly a tale of stability for the past 24 hours. Here's a closer look at these groups in the southern hemisphere. And the two over there on the left, the two furthest to the east, they're looking almost like weird mirror images of each other. Pretty strange. And there are actually a lot of umbrae around those areas there. So I'm expecting sunspot number to be around, let's see, maybe around 130 tomorrow, 125, something like that. And here's the SDO magnetogram also. These are 24-hour videos. Quite a lot of small umbrae there, especially around the northeastern portion of those farther north sunspot groups. And let's move on to some more stats. So keep in mind, folks, we do have quite a high likelihood of a possibility for spikes in the proton flux, known as solar energetic particle events, also sometimes known as proton events. So don't be surprised to see some proton events. Goes proton flux here, not showing much. And the sun has been quiet as far as solar flare activity. Only C-class intensifications for the past 24 hours. And here come the 131 angstroms. Yes. 131 is good times. And do we have 94 today? It looks like we don't. All right. Fair enough. And before we get to coronal mass ejections and filaments, let's take a look at a star chart. What's going on overhead? I guess that's part of space weather, right? And we've got Mercury has just set in the western sky here over Lehigh Valley. We've got some gas giants up there, namely Saturn and Jupiter. And here is your solar system forecast. There's where things are today as we approach the December new moon. That's where things will be in 1 week. New moon coming on the 13th, I believe. And today's astronomy photo of the day should make people very happy. People will be really happy about this one. It is chemtrails. Just kidding, folks. We don't talk about fictional things like chemtrails on the channel too much. Contrails in front of the moon around sunset. Or it might be sunrise, I forget. But yeah, contrails and the crescent moon. So that's apod.nasa.gov's astronomy picture of the day. Contrails, not to be confused with chemtrails. The contrails are a real thing. The chemtrails are a fictional thing. Don't get them confused. Don't get them confused. You rabid anti-dentite. Don't be an anti-dentite. By the way, if you want the anti-dentite shirt, you can get it from the Amazon shop. Amazon.com/shop/smashomash. Continuing on to coronal mass ejections. Here are yesterday's frames. That's 99 of them. And I would attract your attention to the upper right there. You may see that very slow-moving CME happening. If you saw yesterday's daily space weather video, that would have been forecasted. An untenable amount of plasma up there in the northwest. Here are today's images, and you'll see that continuing on a very slow-moving CME there. Looking a little bit jellyfish-like on the difference imagery. Some plasma making its way into the greater solar system, and it's not directed toward Earth, by the way. Now, there is another one out of the east. That one's a little more interesting. We'll take a closer look at that here in a minute by adding the C3. So there's a C3 on the right. And early this morning, we did see a CME out of the east. So let's take a little closer look here. We'll let those play through in their entirety. And we have the C2 on the left a little bit ahead of the C3 on the right. So I recommend watching that first. And then when you see a feature, glance over to the right at the C3. So there's that CME this morning. It's not super spectacular. It is out of the east. Maybe you could say the east-northeast. And we'll bring the C2 back if I can press pause. There we go. And there comes a CME out of the east. Let's bring the C3 back to about 8 o'clock. I doubt it's earthly directed, but let's take a look at stereo A as well, which is getting more and more of an angle. So it's going to be more and more valuable in helping with the calculation of trajectory of coronal mass ejections, whether or not they're earthly directed. There's a stereo A coronagraph on the left and the difference imagery on the right. So that still looks like it is out of the east. So probably not earthly directed. Let's look at our custom coronagraphs. These are 24-hour videos. And here we'll move in a little bit closer. I don't think it's earthly directed. Here we've dropped the C3 and added 304 angstroms to the SDO images. If I had to bet, which I don't, I would say that that's going to miss Earth to the east. Here's just SDO. And it's time for filaments. So that's what's going on for filaments from the Cerro Tololo, Chile ground-based solar observatory. Just fantastic imagery there. Love the hydrogen alpha imagery. We'll also show grayscale. Grayscale, not to be confused with He-Man's home castle Grayskull. Wow, lots of filaments, though. Lots of filaments, and some really massive ones. By the way, if you want to name filaments after living people, do it over on Twitter. Yeah, x.com. x.com/smashamash. Thanks to our 0 new followers over there. And thanks to Elon Musk for fixing free speech on the internet. And by fixing, I mean upholding the pathetic censorship. Pardon my sarcasm, but social media is quite putrid. Quite putrid indeed. But if you want the world's best auroral shares, join us over there. I mean, it's a great place to exchange information, especially if you actually see the stuff that you want to see on the, quote, social media, end quote, platform. By the way, if you enjoy the content, do yourself a favor and press subscribe. If you're new to the channel, press like regardless, as the video can't continue until you press like. What are you, an anti-dentite? For goodness graciousness' sake, folks, press the like button. If you're not seeing the videos show up in your YouTube feed, go subscribe to email alerts over at smashamash.com/smashteam. That might be smart. And utilize the solutions that we've created to your problems. We can only create the solutions, folks. We can't cause you to mysteriously start to take those solutions. In 2019, a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison for a crime we didn't commit. We promptly escaped a maximum security social media stockade to the internet underground, where we survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find the videos, maybe you can hire the Smash Team. No, you certainly can. And before we get to bonus segments, bonus features, and so on, here comes the it's the right there, the Goes 18 SUVi. And we still do have towering filaments up there in the northwestern limb. Some of those are still in the process of ejecting. Some may be splashing back down. They're sort of around the edge of the sun there. They are on the other side of the sun, not likely to have any Earth-directing components at all. Here come bonus features, starting with satellite charging hazards. Well, we have some minor surface charging happening there, once again over the Middle East and the western Indian Ocean. Surface charging is low-energy electrons which build up on the outside of spacecraft. It could cause some minor communications breakdowns, unlikely to cause any satellite damage. Goes electron flux here is still kind of low. I think it's what we were forecasting. And that's the past 3 days. There is the past year. It's about as low as it gets for the electron flux. There's the forecast model. NOAA is looking like they're right on. That green box is the forecast. The yellow diamonds are the observation. We'll also show the F layer, the layer where it's measured. The bridge between Earth and space is at about 300 kilometers of altitude. Here is the vibrational frequency of the F layer. And things are looking very normal there, by the way. If it's all Greek to you, there's the anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. It is the speed at which things are vibrating. It's a bunch of diffuse gas. It basically is space from an air breather's perspective. There's the latest image, 2300 universal time for the ionogram, and there is the anomalygram. We also like to show the global ionosphere nowcast, or WHAM, the whole atmosphere model. Electron content on the left. Maximum usable radio frequency on the right. A great little snapshot for all of you space weather nerds. Before we get to the latest imagery, we'll also show the total electron content by itself. Feel free to pause the video on this frame if you're not familiar with distances in miles. There is the total electron content from ground level to your GPS satellite. Those would be the most likely places to see signal refraction-induced GPS errors caused by those free electrons. And we'll close out space weather with the latest. SDO continuum and SDO magnetogram. So that new sunspot in the northeast, it's pretty modest. The ones in the south central portion of the solar disk are a lot more interesting. We still do have a likely possibility of large solar flares in the southwest from sunspot 3500. And let's move on to meteorology, since we've got some major weather striking the west coast of the U.S., also getting to Alaska. A huge low pressure has moved in, and there's some major precip about to show up at Anchorage. Also, the world's largest waves are in the northeastern Pacific right there, about 36, 37 footers. Those are the world's stormiest seas, actually. You're looking at sea surface. You're looking at significant wave height and sea surface winds in general. So there are the world's stormiest seas. Everything is pretty calm besides that area. Anyway, here's our regularly scheduled meteorology with the surface winds of the east, the jet streams of the east, the central world's jet streams. There's Africa and the Middle East and Europe. I guess we'll show the surface winds here also. There are the surface winds of the central world. Surface winds of the west are right there. And jet streams right there. A convergence happening here over the east coast of the U.S. and the northern Atlantic. And moving right along to our clouds and fog map. Rapid cloud formation once again over Brazil. As a bunch of moisture is pumped into British Columbia and Alberta, Canada from the Pacific Ocean. Here is a closer view of that. So major moisture making its way into the Pacific Northwest and into the U.S. via British Columbia and Alberta, Canada. We've got some forecasts coming for you here in a minute. First, windy.com's rain totals. Look at that, 5.5 inches of rain along the Pacific Northwest coastal regions. Large areas there expecting over 5 inches of rain. That is the next 3 days GFS forecast. There are the next 3 days Euro forecast. 5.5 inches of rain on the forecast there. So that's in addition to what you've already got. That's the next 3 days from now. That is a lot of rain. Here's our weather.gov map. Again, major flood watches and warnings. Pacific Northwest. There is the key to show you the rest of the warnings on the map. Weather.gov is where to go if your location is lit. Here comes some forecasts, starting with the GFS. It's the GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast. Yesterday we talked about a second pulse, and there you can see it. Next, total accumulated precipitation forecast in inches, the same model, GFS 72-hour. And you may be able to see areas showing 5+ inches of rain there. Yeah, that is a coming reality. It is a little moist in the northwest. Next, accumulated positive snow depth change in inches. Since some of that precipitation will be in the form of snow, most of that coming in the last day of the next 3 days, and mostly to Idaho and Montana. Next, temperature anomaly forecast in degrees Celsius, same model, GFS 72-hour. As a heat wave forms over Montana and moves its way to the east. Last but not least, jet stream, the 250 millibar winds. And there you can see a bunch of warm air being able to make its way up into the northern states. So a little bit of a respite from all that cold will be moving to the east in the coming days. That's the GFS 72-hour 250 millibar winds forecast, otherwise known as the jet stream, the culprit for moving your air from west to east. We'll close this thing out with lightning. That's the last about 10 hours. Here are the past about 1 hour, and lightning's actually pretty low right now, only 22 strikes a minute. Here's U.S. Doppler radar. Again, there's a low pressure bearing down on southeastern Alaska. We shall focus on the lower 48. There's vertical motion in the air column from ground-based Doppler radar systems. There's your space-based infrared radiation map showing shortwave radiation. Shows you clouds and fog, even when it's too dark for the visible satellite, and there is water vapor showing you the dry air, the moist air, and everything in between. Here's a recap as we bring your space weather and Earth weather from the photosphere of the closest star all the way down to the lower 48. U.S. Doppler radar. Clouds and fog as a low pressure moves across South Dakota. And there is water vapor. And here is me closing out this video. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Congratulations on realizing it exists. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And in the meantime, may that solar wind be at your back.